Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to Dr. Ahmad Muhyiddin bin Yusof. My name is Intan Fairuz binti Mak Daud. Today my teammates and I will be presenting to you about our studies on the effects of online distance learning towards university students. This will be the topic that we will be covered today. First will be the WH question will be presented by Nur Shahida. Next is the objective will be presented by me. Later is the literature review will be presented by Nur Ayu and Nur Najiha. Then the question and findings will be presented by Khairul Nisa, and lastly the summary will be presented by Afika Nur Izwani.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Shahida. First, we will start with WH questions. The first one is why. This is to show the idea of our research. Our idea is the effects of ODL towards university students. The second one is why, which is the reason based on the idea we choose. Our reason is the causes of negative effects of ODL towards university students. The third one is who, which means the person involved. Our respondent is UATM students who involved in online class. The fourth one is where, which place the research will be taken. This research will be done at UATM Seri Iskandar Perak. And last is when. What is the time this research take place? Our research will be done in semester break after ODL.
These are the objectives of our study. First is to identify the effects of online distance learning towards the student. It is to minimize the negative effects of ODL towards the student. Next is to identify how the student manage the dispute between school schedule, study schedule, and home schedule. This is to guide them on how to manage their time appropriately. Lastly, is to propose a solution on how to reduce the strain of ODL. This will help the student in handling ODL according to their capabilities.
Alright, after we have developed the research questions and research objective, the next thing we will do is literature review. Literature review is very important as it provides the foundation of knowledge on the topic and areas of our study. And first, we will look at the introductions. Okay, as COVID-19 hit the rest of the world, various changes has to be made for our own safety, and one of it is the implementations of online distance learning toward the student. For example, to the university student, school student, or even preschool student. And then, according to Ain and Hisham 2020 in their research, they stated that Malaysian students are more reserved and often a passive participant in classroom discussions. Therefore, this has changed the original concept of their learning, and when specific instructions are not given for the assignment, activities, and tests, they often feel at loss. And then they are tempted to blame their distant teachers for an obvious lack of expertise or devotions when this happens, as seen in most of the discourse of the student. Okay, now we will look at the definitions. The Chuki 2012 characterized online learning as a group of learning structure consisting of three components, which is modern information, communication technologies, which refer to the personal computers or other devices, and lastly, the internet. Okay, these three main things. Hisham Zakaria and others 2005 in their research stated that open distance learning or ODL call for a fantastic range of technologies to allow distant teachers and distant learners to communicate in real time and delayed time with each other separated by distance. While Samad and other 2020 said that flexibility be its most prominent attribute in the ODL debate as it refers to the quick access without any rigidity to knowledge as well as a wide range services. Guri Rosenblit 2005 said that apart from being an interactive way of learning, online learning can be said as a cost-effective medium because both students and teachers do not have to attend the physical classes. It is then agreed by Mahlangu 2018. He said that the advantage behind is before coming to the classes, students can watch the lectures or can look back at the notes, thus can partake in more engaging class activities. Hence, it truly boosts the student motivations to enjoy their learning process, although they were not in a physical classes like before. Next, we will look at the LR of the first objective of this study, which is the effect of ODL towards student learning outcome. According to Cross 1981, there will be three distinct categories of ODL faced by ODL students which can affect them. Let's look at the first category, which is dispositional. Okay, so dispositional refer to the student's own attitude and feeling during the online learning environment. For example, work overloads and the failure of students to understand the information given by the lecturers will effect more pressure to the student. Then student engagement in other academic activities like they need to work to earn money beside their doing their study, and also lack of confidence and motivations as students cannot communicate or contact physically like before with their lecturers. Okay, then we look at the second categories of ODL, which is institutional synchronized nature of online. This refer to the problem with modern technology such as downloading error, issue with installations, login problems, problem with audio and video, and so on. Not to forget the technical problem which have a huge impact of late posting of work caused by the accessibility to internet connections. In Malaysia, during this pandemic, at the early stage of pandemic in our country, the government of Malaysia had given a subsidies of 1 gigabit of data daily to all the citizens of Malaysia. And now, the YTL Foundation had given a SIM card containing 40 gig of data for 2 month periods to the school student and also to the university student. It is very beneficial to the student because it will help to reduce the amount of money used for buying the data, but sadly, some students still can't access this benefit because due to their geographical areas, because they live in a very, for example, in very rural areas, which the coverage of line there are very poor and very disaster. So it will affect the student, which cause them to be left behind in their study. And then we will look at the last category, which is situational, student time commitment. The example of this category is first is insufficiently prepared to balance their timing between work, family, and social with their study life in online learning environment. And also they can't handle many work in one time because as we know, online classes require more time and effort compared to face-to-face classes. Online classes is very tiring to both the student and also the teachers. And then noisy environment such as disturbance from family. especially to the family to the student which have many siblings. And lastly, poor learning environment. For example, some students may not have the adequate spaces to do their online classes there. So it's affect their performance as well.
Next is to identify how students manage the dispute between the study schedule and home schedule. Maxwell C.C. Musigafi et al. Identify certain situational challenges to persistent in distinct learning for students. These include a bad environment and lack of time for the learning. A terrible time control leads to issues such as the failure of learners to integrate the desire for off-campus study with families, job, and social responsibilities. Oliver Tatchong et al. Also stated the amount of time and attention spent on a study program has an impact on the persistence of a study of the student. Studying is an expenditure, and the more time students devote, the less likely they are to leave. Lastly, is to provide a solution in reducing the strains of ODL. The students are indeed need to adapt their lifestyle right now in ODL. At the beginning, the student will face difficulties to adapt the system of a learning. Oliver, Lee, and Wong suggested that the students must be provided with an ample time management to improve their learning performance. Wong also mentioned that the low-level students with poor time management will have lack of study skills. Therefore, they need to develop and utilize a good study skill with a proper time management. Zhu, Di, and Jagar also recommend that to implement the online learning skill into the courses so that the students will be more focused and concentrate during learning through the ODL. As a summary, we need to get used to something that is unfamiliar to us even if it might has bad effect on us. The problem is a new problem for which there is no solution. Therefore, students as well as the teachers need to take the initiative to work hard in this learning system. Annie S.C. Hisham stated that ODL providers need to recognize that their educational products and services are meant to benefit the learner and have an encouraging experience in education. They also stated that the student should never be seen as the problem, but should be seen as incorporated as part of the solution. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, so let's move on to the next part of this research, which is the questionnaires and findings. Okay, so the research method used for this study is the survey method, and the tools for the survey method is by using questionnaires, where these questionnaires are thoroughly prepared and ready to be distributed among 37 respondents. Okay. Okay, so there are three sections that is available for this study, which is the first section, the second section, and also the third section. Okay, so the first section expressed the reasons for the survey to be conducted, and then the second section, which is section A, shows the demographic of respondents, where all the personal information of the respondent is obtained, such as age and gender, and academic qualification, and which faculty they are from. Okay, so next is the section B, where the questions related to the study is obtained. Okay, so the questions are based on the objective of our research. Okay, so actually a Likert scale is prepared for the respondents, and the respondents is acquired to rate the scale from 1 to 5. Okay, so the scale consists of from strongly disagree, disagree, natural, agree, and strongly agree. Okay. Okay, so findings of the study. Okay, so for gender, apparently the number of respondents for both male and female is the same, which is 19 respondents for both, which is about 51.4%. Okay, for the age, about 71.1% of the respondents is between 21 to 24 years old. Okay. Meanwhile, about 28.9% of them were between 18 to 20 years old. Okay, so for academic qualification, okay, so about 68.4% students are from bachelor's degree, and meanwhile 31.6% are from diploma. Okay, and next is the faculty. Okay, for information, about 92.1% students are from the Faculty of Architectural Planning and Surveying, and meanwhile, only 7.9% of the respondents is from the Faculty of Art and Design. Okay, and last but not least is we can see that about 63.2% of the students are from semester 5, and last but not least is we have the least number of respondents from the semester 6 and 2, which is only 7.9% of them have responded to this questionnaire that we prepared. Okay, so for the first objective, okay, for the effects of ODL towards students, apparently I'm going to explain only a few of the points. Okay, so based on the table, most of the students have strongly agreed that ODL has affected the students in so many ways. Okay, so about 29 respondents have strongly agreed that the consumption of internet data have affected the ODL most of the students. Okay, so apparently the internet network is very important for ODL. Okay, however, not all students have provided with the Wi-Fi. Okay, the mobile data, they cannot support the internet as much as the Wi-Fi does. Okay, mostly when they use the hotspot. Therefore, it is very inconvenient. However, only 2 respondents have strongly disagree that ODL actually restrains students from having a direct discussion with their lecturer. Okay, so this is because educators are not properly prepared, therefore they could not carry out the direct teaching effectively. Okay. So next we move on to the second part, which is how students manage daily home and study schedule. Okay, on this point, about 90 students have agreed that they have prepared their own term calendar to manage their home and study schedule. And apparently, the calendar actually helps students to identify the important dates, such as quizzes, tests, and due dates for their assignments. Okay, so meanwhile, only 2 respondents have totally and strongly disagree that they prepared their own flexible work schedule. Okay, so this will actually the flexible work schedule helps students to meet personal obligations and life responsibilities effectively. However, it can cause students to have an unwanted amount of stress since they need to abide with their schedule and stuff. Therefore, sometimes schedule is not really necessary. Okay, next is we have, last but not least, is the part where a solution to reduce the strains of ODL. Okay, in this case, about 27 students have strongly agreed that the government should have provided a specific data plans for students. Okay, and the same result also obtained for government initiative to improve the internet network for a stable line. Okay, so indeed, internet is very crucial for ODL. Okay, but somehow not everyone managed to have a stable internet connection. Like, if that student is from a rural area, then they might have that sort of problem. Even in the urban area, okay, if the internet is not stable, that doesn't mean you have a good internet connection. Okay, however, one respondent have disagree that the government should have provide a specific data plan for students. Okay,
graph of findings. There are 6 effects. The first one is ODL, affects students' time management, which almost of the respondents agreed with it. Second one is ODL affects students' physical and personal attention. The third one is ODL brought distractions, anxiety, and confusion among students. The fourth one is causes entrainment for students to have direct discussion. The fifth one is high consumption of mobile data or Wi-Fi. And lastly, does not provide a good study environment for them to study. Almost all the effect was faced by the student because many of them is strongly agreed that those effects really affected them during this ODL class. Next, how students manage daily home and study schedule. Based on the first graph, almost students agreed to prepare the term schedule. On the right one, the student also agreed to prepare separate schedule for school and housework. Next, on the bottom left, student also agreed to plan ahead time to complete their work. And the last one, majority of student is natural about to ensure that all housework are settled before class begins.
According to this graph of findings on how students manage daily homes and study schedules, it seems like only 50 students divide their times wisely, which means 39.5% overall of the responses from the respondents feel natural to divide their times between schoolworks and houseworks. According to the graph of findings for the solutions to reduce the strain of ODL, firstly, it seems like most of the students agree with the personal schedules to allocate between schoolworks and houseworks. There are 29 students agree and strongly agree with it. It shows that 39.5% of the responses agree and 36.8% strongly agree with the preparations of schedules. Meanwhile, about 16 respondents, which is 42.1% of the responses, have strongly agreed that the university should offer orientations in the distance mode. Moreover, 90 students, which is 50% of the responses, strongly agree that the parents should help the students to develop self-study and time management habits at home. Next, based on the graph, most of the students strongly agree that the university should provide extra time for the students to complete their works. This graph shows that 28 students, which is 73.7%, responses strongly agree with it. Lastly, according to the graph, 27 students out of 38, which means 71.1%, strongly agree that government should provide specific data plan to the student. And 27 students strongly agree that government should improve the network to maintain the stable offline during class. For the summary, online distance learning has affected students in so many ways such that they lose their social aspect and may even distribute to anxiety, nervousness, and suffering. Moreover, as higher education adapt and online distance learnings and teachings, the workload and the learning load of the implementations of a new method of delivery is taking a tremendous toll on the life of higher education students. Therefore, identify objective will provide it in solving the problems related. The main objective for this study are to identify the effect of ODL towards students, to identify how students manage the disputes between study schedules and home schedules, and to provide a solution in reducing the stage of ODL. Hopefully, this study will help students to achieve success in their studies despite the current conditions. The findings of this study will be able to assess the online learning distance to be more adaptable and compatible to the students.
That is all from us. Thank you for watching.